Hello everybody, welcome back to Read and Reread. My name is Angelia and today I'm going to talk about my May TBR. It's been about a week since I did a video because I was out of town over the weekend. We were visiting our daughter at school right before she hits that crunch of the end of the semester, so we had a nice time visiting with her in the San Marcos and Austin area. And now I'm back though and ready to think about wrapping up April and getting into May. So welcome to the channel if you are new. If you have subscribed recently, I'm so glad that you have joined me here. And if you've just blundered into this channel today, I hope you enjoy this video and you think about liking and subscribing. But let's talk about May. My original intention was to take a little readathon holiday and just read books by mood and things I've been meaning to get to. But the closer and closer I've gotten to May, more and more intriguing topics have popped up. And so now all of a sudden I realize I have quite a few books that are tied to some kind of a theme or readathon for the month of May after all. But I'm not going to dive deeply into any of them. I'm going to just traipsy along the shores and maybe just get my ankles wet. And so I will be linking the announcement videos for any and all of these different readathons in the notes below in case you want to go further into it, because the announcements have really great content about the purpose of the theme, prompts, suggestions, recommended books, and I did pull a lot of books out to put on my own TBR for future. Not necessarily going to read them all right now, but I got some great ideas for the upcoming time. So I'll put that in there for you in case you want to go further than I'm going to go, but I'll just tell you about these and what I'm planning to do, because I needed to carve out and protect some time for just randomness, because I'm in that mood. So anyway, enough about that. So the first one has been ongoing the whole year, and that is the E.M. Forster Readalong, and the book for May is A Room with a View, and I'm really excited about this. I have read it before, but it has been decades. It's been a really long time. I've seen the movie a couple of times, which is a lot of fun as well. And I did see that again. I think we watched that during the spring of 2020, the golden era of rewatching old things. This was his third novel, which was published in 1908, and I will talk more about it when I get to the time of reading it, but I am really super excited to read this book again. It's one that I've been wanting to reread for a long time, so I'm glad that I have sort of a framework and a structure for reading and discussing this with some other people. The next one that I wanted to participate in is Mental Health May, and this is being co-hosted by two booktubers that I subscribe to and follow and really love their content, and that's Marilyn at Marilyn Maya Mendoza and Kim at Middle of the Book March, and I will include their announcement videos in the notes. And so this is a readathon highlighting the topic of mental health and encouraging everyone to read about it, think about it, and talk about it, and look at some fiction and nonfiction that is centered around this theme. And so because I'm going lightly, now it may turn out that some other books that I happen to read magically also fit this theme, but officially what I'm going to read is the book that they are doing the discussion group on, and that is Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb. The subtitle is A Therapist, Her Therapist, and Our Lives Revealed. Lori Gottlieb is a therapist in Los Angeles, and she wrote a book that is it's a narrative nonfiction, kind of almost in a memoir format, about focusing on a time when she herself decided to do therapy for a while when she was having an emotional crisis in the wake of a breakup. And so in this book, she talks about her experiences as a therapist and her experience as a patient. But that's what I'm going to read for Mental Health May, and maybe something else, but this one for sure. So those two books are for sure. There's one more book that's a definite must read for the month, and that is the one that I never can pronounce correctly, but it's Kaikeyi. I'm going to work on it, but it is by Vaishnavi Patel, and I'm reading that for the Booktube Prize judging. And this book, I'm a little bit frustrated because I put in to borrow this book from the library, and I put in my request on April 1st, and it still hasn't come up, and I'm the next person in line the whole time. And you know, it is my understanding that if somebody has requested a book, and this is certainly my experience as a borrower, if it is on hold, you are not able to renew the book. And this book was supposed to be due on April 17th, and now it's renewed till May 5th, which tells me that probably the borrower is a library employee, because who else would be able to override the rule and do that renewal? So it's either an employee or someone who's got good connections, because that book should have already come up for me. I'm waiting. So if it doesn't come up like in the next week or so, I might have to buy it because it's long and I need time to be able to read it. So enough of my dorky indignation with the library and the slow holds. But here's another dorky thing, this necklace. I got this at a Scholastic book fair a few years ago. So it doesn't show in the shot. I just had to get credit for that. So there is a readathon called Springathon, which of course is celebrating springtime by reading books about nature or the natural world. And I will confess that the first time I heard Springathon, I kind of just dismissed it. I thought, well, that'll be one that I can skip by because I'm not really into nature writing and there's nothing on my mind that I want to read. But then I happened to be looking through my TBR and I noticed there actually is a book that I've been meaning to read that it's about the animal world. I don't know if it necessarily is what they had in mind when they said nature writing, but it's as close as I will get to it fitting in with my interests. An Immense World by Ed Yong, and I have requested this at the library, and this is a book about animal senses. And that's about all I know about it, except that it appeared on a lot of best of the year lists, and I think it's still in the nonfiction Booktube Prize list. So I don't know if somebody who's watching this is reading or judging that book, but since my library does have it, I have requested it, and I will see if I like it, if I feel like reading it, and if it does, then I read something for Springathon. We'll see what happens. All right, so that's really the end of the themes and the readathons. The rest of these books are things that I just have on my mind, and a lot of them are rereads too, like things that I've been meaning to get to, and for some reason or another, something has happened lately that has rolled it up in my mental book Rolodex up to the top where I'm really thinking about it and wanting to get back into it. So first of all, we have The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, and this of course rolled up to the top because it was in my video about wonderful first lines, and there is that first line describing the Hobbit hole, and just that very little beginning and kind of then peeking through that first chapter, it just reawakened it for me, and I've been meaning to get back to it for a while, and every time somebody talks about The Hobbit, I think, oh yeah, I love The Hobbit, I want to read that again. I feel like now is the time. So I really, really do think I'm going to read this, hopefully this month, and I'm leaving it sitting out nearby me so that the osmosis keeps bringing me closer. All right, another one that came back up into my mind is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. Now, I've been thinking about rereading this, and I saw was it HBO or Netflix? I think it was HBO. I saw the show version of it a few months ago, and then that got me wanting to read it again. And then the other day when we were on our road trip, we heard a podcast that was from about a year ago where Emily St. John Mandel is being interviewed, and it was upon the release of Sea of Tranquility, and that reminded me that I wanted to read Station 11, The Glass Hotel, and Sea of Tranquility kind of close together, because there are some thematic and character and plot overlaps between the books that are almost, they're kind of Easter eggy and intriguing, and I want to read them in proximity to each other, like over the next few months in a row. So I have to start, of course, with Station 11, which is also the one that's furthest away of when I read it the first time. And when I have a haul video that I'm going to be doing soon as some books come in that I have ordered that aren't here yet. And I'm going to be mentioning this podcast again because Emily St. John Mandel put a bee in my bonnet about a book that sounded really good that she recommended. I can't talk about it yet till I get all my stuff together for the haul. So Station 11 is high up there on my radar. Another author that I have recently discovered, and she's become a new favorite in our household, is Jess Kidd. You're going to see this book again. You're going to see both of these again in the haul video because this hardback of Station 11 was a holy grail that I finally found. And then I picked this up the other day at Half Price Books. Stephen and I both read The Night Ship, and then he's gone on to read Things in Jars and this book, Mr. Flood's Last Resort. I brought this home and he snatched up and read it. And so that leaves us with only one more book that we don't have in the household, which is himself. We're working on that one. But he read it. He really liked Things in Jars and Mr. Flood. I am picking out Mr. Flood to read in May because it has a contemporary time setting. And I felt like I was in the mood for that rather than the one that had the Victorian setting. So Mr. Flood's Last Resort. And I feel like I didn't describe hardly anything about what these books are about, but I guess that's okay. So, Station 11 is dystopian. Pandemic wipes out everybody, like 99% of the world. And then there's a traveling troupe of dramatic players who are survivors, and they go around and they put on Shakespearean plays. That's the barest bones of the story, but there's a lot more. The Hobbit, the Hobbit, they go on an adventure. There's magic rings. And Room with a View, a bunch of British people go on a vacation and have to figure out how to marry the right people. Then wait, these are just really concise descriptions. Mr. Flood's Last Resort is this one. It's not a reread. So Maud she gets a caregiver job with an elderly man named Mr. Flood, and Mr. Flood lives in a decrepit old mansion. His son wants to put him in a nursing home. The last caregiver was apparently driven over the edge by Mr. Flood's eccentricities, but it says this unlikely pair begins to cooperate, bonding over their shared love of Irish folktales and mutual dislike of Mr. Flood's overbearing son. But there are some secret, buried family ominous secrets and a long forgotten case of a missing schoolgirl that will come into the plot. So that sounds fabulous to me. The next one is a book. Now I have a story on Friday, a story of a reading mishap, a case of mistaken identity. And I'm not going to explain it more because that story is for Friday. But the result of that story is that I have this book in my May TBR instead of it being a book that I am finishing in the month of April. And I will explain all these things. I know now you're going to be on the edge of your seat till Friday to hear this riveting story. But this is a mystery novel. And if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that into every month, a little drop of murder usually falls. I don't know if this one is actually a mystery or not. It kind of sounds a little mysterious. But this one's definitely a murder mystery. And the setup here is pretty interesting. Stephen read this book and he thought that I would like it too. And then I saw it on the new release shelf, so I grabbed it. So this author, Iris Yamashita, is a screenwriter. She had an Academy Award nomination for the movie Letters from Iwo Jima. This is her debut novel. And this takes place in Alaska in a weird little remote town where the whole city and all the people live and work in this high-rise building. And a murder has occurred, and so a detective named Kara Kennedy comes from Anchorage, and it says she has her own motives for investigating the possible murder in this isolated place, which can only be accessed by a tunnel. Then there's a blizzard that blocks off the tunnel, and she's stuck in the high-rise building with all of these weird residents. And it says there's also gang members from a nearby native village complicating the issue. So it's kind of everybody locked into a place type mystery, but it's apparently full of bizarre characters, very unusual setting. So I am really interested to read this book, and I think this will fit in really great in between some of these other ones. All right, so another book that has been lingering and lurking on my library hold request is The Death of Vivek OG. The author is Akwaeke Emezi, and I read, what did I read? No, I didn't read anything. I've been wanting to read something by Emezi for Trans Girl April. I had checked out You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty. Double check the title. I had it checked out, decided not to read it. When I heard about their different fiction, I felt like The Death of Vivek OG would be a better fit for me than that romance novel. So I returned it so that somebody else could enjoy it. And I put this hold on this one. And just like my other hold, it's just sitting and sitting and sitting. So I don't know who's reading the same books that I want to read and then just hunkering on them. But I don't know if I'm annoyed with this person or if I want to meet this person, because that means someone else in town is reading what I'm reading. And, you know, maybe it's my secret friend. But anyway, if they ever return it, I do want to read it, but I don't think it's going to make it in time for Trans Girl April. It'll just be a good book to read whenever it shows up. So that's has an honorary spot on my May TBR. I do have a YA book also that I found at the library by the same author that I might fit in before the month ends, but I'm not sure, but I have it on hand. There's more. This is a book that I still haven't read, and I keep bringing it out, but I feel kind of bad because my daughter gave it to us for Christmas, and Stephen read it pretty promptly, and I still have not read it, but I'm very interested in it. And it's Scatterlings by Resoketswe Manenzhe. And this author is, let's see, this is a South African author who has written short stories and poems. I think this is her first novel, and it takes place in the 1920s in South Africa, and it has to do with a mixed race couple who already have a family, and then this law passes which prohibits sex and relationships between black and white people. And so this is a married couple with kids, and all of a sudden they're not legal, and all of the fallout that ensues from this event in a society and in their home. So doesn't that sound really good? I don't know what my delay, I can't attribute a reason for this, but it is in my pile for this month. All right, so the wild cards in this situation are, as always, things I happen to come across at the library, and also there's a whole bunch of books that I have either just acquired or they're still coming that I have ordered. But I might get tempted and sidetracked into wanting to read them sooner rather than later. So if anything in my lineup ends up not hitting me at the right time in the right mood, there could be some substitution, so we'll just have to wait and see. All right, but that's kind of what I have in mind, and I think it's a pretty good list. I would love to know what you think about my selections or what you are feeling most keen about reading in May. which of the reading challenges do you want to participate in? Did you notice the one I didn't mention at all? Because I am just not feeling it about, I don't want to be miserable. So there's one that I'm just skipping right over this month. But it's still, if you're into that one, I hope you have a great time. But that's all for now. And like I said, I'd love to hear what you have in mind. And I will be back on Friday with kind of a deluxe edition of Friday Reads since I didn't get to do one the week before. So have a great week, and I will see you soon. Bye.